All right. Merry Christmas, everyone. This is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Rebel, and welcome to the I Love Jeet Kune broadcast number 57. This is the one about, do you now need to liberate yourself from classical Jeet Kune? So as you guys are logging in, I got to tell you this. Where I grew up in Barbados, December 26th is a holiday. So I almost forgot that here in the States, everybody goes back to work on December 26th. So I almost, I was thinking, oh, I don't have to do a program on Wednesday because it's a holiday. But then I remembered. So anyhow, broadcast number 57. The one about liberate yourself from classical Jeet Kune. So as you guys are logging in, you know the deal. Say where you're logging in from and hit the like button. And then if I say anything that's particularly insightful or with which you agree, go ahead and continue to hit the like button. And then Facebook gives us the algorithmic relevance, right? I love saying that. Origin story of today's title. If you listen to the Jeet Kune dialogues, you would have heard me talk about this a little bit with Chris Kent a few weeks ago. And I am 100% certain that somebody somewhere has written an article with this title, Liberate Yourself from Classical Jeet Kune, but I cannot find it. For the life of me, I cannot find it, right? What I did find in looking for it, on a little side note, was an article from 2007 that I had written talking about the need to liberate yourself from the influence of the UFC. But that's a different conversation for a different time, right? So a little bit about today's title. I hope that you notice the smaller size font where I wrote, do you now need? And I hope that you notice that I put classical in inverted commas. And finally, I hope that you notice that the entire thing is framed in the interrogatory. You did notice that, right? That's because when I get here on Facebook and on the YouTube to talk about Jeet Kune, the last thing that I want to convey is that I have all the answers. The only thing that I want to convey as such is that we all need to continue to talk about and discuss Jeet Kune. That's it. Well, that's kind of it. I mean, because that's kind of it, because obviously I want us to continue to train and teach Jeet Kune as well, and to use it, as it says on Cedro Bruce's gravesite, use it as inspiration towards our own personal liberation, right? Sometimes I mention to you guys here that I field questions on Quora about martial arts and what have you. And I have to tell you that a lot of times I actually answer the question with a question of my own, simply because I just want people to think about things rather than accepting my answer as gospel, so to speak, right? Okay, so what's meant by classical Jeet Kune? So I'll tell you first that I'm not referring to the Inside Kung Fu column that the late Ted Wong used to write, although I could, since he did name it such. But from what I've been told, his naming as such did not. It was because he considered classical, he used that as an adjective, meaning that Jeet Kune was a sophisticated work of art, right? And but it's true, I think, that the name classical Jeet Kune did kind of contribute to the argument that raged during the 80s or 90s or whenever it was over, what exactly was the Jeet Kune, right? So, let's say also that classical Jeet Kune is a thing that's used to refer to the idea of Jeet Kune being based on Wing Chun, boxing, and fencing, which is something that we've heard repeatedly over the years, right? And that there was no mention of Kali or Pencak Silat or any of the other arts that Salem Ashley calls the Jeet Kune associated disciplines. The things with which we have all become relatively familiar, right? So classical Jeet Kune. What Bruce Lee wrote, so everybody knows, I take this title from the 1971 article in Black Belt magazine. And Bruce Lee wrote that it was necessary to free yourself from the confines of the traditional way of training martial arts, right? Which he referred to in some aspects as dry land swimming. And in his essay, one of the things that he specifically pointed to was that in Jeet Kune, there were no prearranged sets or katas, and that there were, kata was unnecessary. And this is another one of those moments where you have to stop and realize that what we are discussing, you have to put it into its relevant historical context. Because in the 1970s, kata was a thing. The different kata were things that could distinguish the different styles, let's say, from each other. Because when it came to the fighting, everybody was doing the same thing. But the kata could differentiate my style versus your style. So that was, I think that's why Bruce Lee made a point of mentioning that a differentiation in Jeet Kune was that there were no prearranged sets, right? In the article, Bruce Lee warns against, he warned against this, where he talks about the good intentions of students, but what happens is that their attempts crystallize after their teacher's passing, right? Let me get this clear, right? He warned against this, that after the teacher's passing, the students attempt to crystallize what he was taught. So let me ask you this, you guys chime in on this. Is adamantly stipulating that Jeet Kune is based solely on Wing Chun, fencing, and boxing, is that classifiable as crystallization of Jeet Kune, right? So let me say this, and then you guys chime in and you tell me if you agree or disagree that this is what happens, right? So a martial arts genius came along, and he teaches his students how to be free. He passes away, and then his lessons on freedom get distorted into some kind of a fixed approach. Then there's another group of students, and they seek to perpetuate the idea of freedom. So they approach the teachings in a kind of a circuitous route by showing how the lessons or the principles or what have you can be applied somewhat across the board in other arts, right? But here's what happens. Even the usage of the circuitous route, these lessons also take on their own crystallization and become their own fixed pattern. So my question is this inevitable? Are we always going to be plagued by this idea of it has to be done this way, this specific way, or it's not really Jeet Kune? So if you guys would be so kind as to comment on that, you know what I'll do. I'll go through the comments afterwards and reply if necessary, right? So I'm wondering if this is what happened. If Jeet Kune's, because of this, right? Jeet Kune's greatest era of dissemination was probably in the early days of the seminar thing, right? And so it was spread by a group of diverse seminar instructors. Well, in order to teach, even on seminar, right, you have to have some kind of structure, correct? So is what happened that the routines that these instructors showed or taught on seminar, is that what became the art? Is that where people started to get the idea that these specific routines are Jeet Kune? So in essence, did this seminar instruction stuff become the kata of Jeet Kune, right? Albeit a more free-form version, but still necessarily a fixed pattern. In other words, did the experiences that these instructors were trying to provide through their seminar instruction, did these become the curricula at the different schools of the people that they certified to become instructors, right? I ask this because a long time ago, I kind of realized that what Sifu Asano, and you guys know that he is my main influence in Jeet Kune Do. I realized that what Sifu Dan taught on seminar was what came out of his mind as learning material, right? So what he's teaching on seminar is learning material for us, the seminar attendees. Because I don't recall him ever saying, or any other Jeet Kune Do instructor for that matter, ever saying, this is the only way to do it. You understand? So what I mean by he's providing learning material for us, but it is not necessarily supposed to become our teaching material, right? So I always came away from the seminar with my notes on what he had taught, but also with my own ideas as what to work on to end up with my own conclusions, right? So that's the other thing that I would like for you guys to comment on, right? Because you know, at the Asano seminars now, you know, sometimes the word series, right? So he'll like show a series of things, and he might make a joke, you know, this is number 7 in the series or what have you, and that's kind of popular. And I think that I think what he's showing is a result of his experimentation, let's call it. But he teaches that Jeet Kune Do is a process and not a product. So I don't think we are supposed to take what he shows, turn it into a product of what it is that we end up disseminating at our schools, right? So that's what I mean by classical Jeet Kune Do. It is the solidification of whatever material it is that you're getting from whatever source it is that you're getting, and thinking, since this Jeet Kune Do instructor showed it this way, then this is the thing. And if I'm not doing the thing the way he shows it on the seminar, then it's not really Jeet Kune Do. I don't think that is, well, you guys tell me what you think, right? It is the taking of the material that you're receiving and the wholesale adaptation. Does that miss the point of Jeet Kune Do, where Bruce Lee says, let me find the quote, right? This is part of the article. And by the way, if you guys don't know where to find the Liberate Yourself from Classical Karate article, just message me and I'll point you in the right direction. There's a couple different sources. But here's what Bruce Lee actually wrote in part of his article. In doing so, the well-meaning, loyal followers not only made this knowledge a holy shrine, but also a tomb in which they buried the founder's wisdom. So my big question on today's broadcast is, did Bruce Lee wrote about liberation from classical karate, but then did Jeet Kune Do perhaps go through its own period of classicalization? Is that a word, right? And do we now have to, again, because it's a process, do we now have to think in terms of liberating ourselves from what might have become classical Jeet Kune Do? All right, that's it. Stuff to ponder, right? Feel free to share, like, comment, ask questions. I'll review everything. Sign up for notifications for when we go live on Facebook and when we post on the YouTube. ilovejeetkunዶ.com version volume 1 of the Quick Skills series. On Friday, I'll be finishing up the year with 2 episodes of the Jeet Kune Do dialogues with 2 of my Atlanta JKD brothers, Sule Welch and Baba Taji Nanji. I don't have the times confirmed yet. They're going to get back in touch with me later today, but you can expect 2 episodes of the Jeet Kune Do dialogues on Friday, and that'll be it. So, Merry belated Christmas, Happy New Year. I will see you guys here, same Facebook back channel next time next week. All right, you guys have a good one. Take care.